Okay, so wanted to have this training be about underwriting. And I know it's a very confusing thing, especially if you haven't been in the industry a while or you're used to doing the simplified issue products and not going through underwriting. I'm a big believer in underwriting. I think that you're going to get the best types of products with the best ratings for your client, and that's really what we're here to do at the end of the day, is to provide the best service for our clients and get them the best possible policies. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with the simplified and guaranteed issue products. They have their own use, but if you are going with term or IUL products, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you go through underwriting. Ryan knows from example when he was at Symmetry, their product banner, which was a simplified issue living benefits term, was about 30-40% higher in premiums. And the reason that those policy premiums are higher is when you don't go through underwriting, the insurance carriers are taking on additional risk. How do they account for that risk and cover themselves? By charging you more money for that risk. So I have always been trained to do underwriting since day one when I was with Mass Mutual. I've gone through underwriting. I've gone through medical exams from day one. So I was used to doing medical exams and waiting 2, 3, 4 weeks, sometimes even a couple months for policies to be approved. Now, Mass Mutual is not really known for having great underwriting. There's a lot of carriers we can use now that have quicker underwriting, may not need medical exams. National Life Group is amazing because I know they don't need any medical exams. So I'd highly recommend trying to go that route with your clients, going with carriers that are a little bit more lenient on that, because we don't really want to have to do medical exams if we don't have to. And I'll get into that later. So underwriting could be a little confusing for some people because there's so many things out there that we just don't really know about, especially being a new agent. Like I have no idea what rating this is going to look at. So this is what this training is going to help you out with: how to have those conversations, how to figure out what rating somebody's going to be, and how to quote them accurately. Right? I had to learn the hard way, which you will have to do too, by submitting business and being wrong about it. As you may think, oh, that's not a big deal. Oh, I didn't ask about this. It's okay. Let's submit it. That's fine. That's how I learned. And you're going to learn that way by getting responses from carriers and underwriters that something was declined or it became a standard rating when you thought it was going to be a preferred rating, or it's a tabled rating when you thought it was going to be standard. And you're going to learn by doing and having underwriters tell you what the reason for that rating was. That's the best way you're going to learn, but I want to be able to try to at least prepare you to be a little bit more accurate with your underwriting quotes, because we have no idea what somebody is going to be approved at until they go through the process. So it's very important to do good field underwriting, right? So the field underwriting it's very simple. You have to go through a couple of major questions here. And I would write this down if you're writing notes, or you can take notes down. But whenever you're going through the process with somebody, you're going to always ask the same simple questions. And you can find most of them when you go into the quoting tool, which I will show you as well. So let's just go here. So a lot of times you'll be able to get a pretty accurate idea of what somebody's going to be simply by going through this quoting tool here. It's not very detailed to be able to go over if somebody has diabetes, or somebody put a stent in, or has some diseases or medical conditions that aren't very common. This quoting tool here is great if you know they are pretty healthy, maybe have blood pressure or cholesterol issues. But other than that, it's not going to take those things into consideration. So this will be good for somebody that's not really taking any medications or have any medical issues, right? So like, for example, let's just say it's me and I am relatively healthy. You can just go through here, put the amount of years and the death benefit that you want. And if you guys don't know how to get here, you just go to the ILN.powered agency and you click on the pipeline. And this is what you're going to use to quote for term. Not really permanent, but that's not what this is about. So let's say somebody's looking for a term policy, and again, they're relatively healthy. You're just going to use this. It's really accurate, right? What do underwriters look at? They look at your height and weight is a big one. If you're a smoker or non-smoker, if you have blood pressure issues or cholesterol issues, what medications are you taking? What are the levels? Those are a lot of the main things that they're going to be looking at, which is what you can find here. So you can go ahead and put, 5'6", 180. And then here, you'll just click add health details. Now, there's a couple things here that you can go over. I almost never go through the driving violations, tickets, or criminal history because I work with first responders generally, and they all don't have that. But it is something you're going to want to ask. There are people out there that have probation or felonies or reckless driving, and which is going to be a factor. Okay, so that's something you do want to do. I don't usually do it because everyone I work with pretty much they can't be like a police officer if they have probation or stuff like that. They usually don't get tickets, but that is one factor that's involved. Another factor that's involved is family history. Now, this is not a very big deal, and I want you to take note of this. It's only going to be an issue if they're looking at a preferred or an elite rating. The top two ratings, this can play a factor in right here, the family history. If somebody has a parent that died at a young age due to cancer or diabetes or heart disease, that can prevent them from getting an elite or preferred rating. After that, they're not going to be declined for family history, but they're not going to get the best rating. Okay, so it is important if you have somebody you think is going to be one of those top ratings to ask about family history so you don't go and quote them at the best ratings and then find out later that they're when you're doing the application that one of their parents died at a young age due to uh, one of those things. So that is a factor, but it's not going to be a reason somebody's declined. And then over here is health conditions. And again, this pipeline is not going to really go over more than just this right here. But a lot of the people you talk to probably are within this category here. So you could just put the height and weight, tobacco use or non-tobacco use. You could put the blood pressure if they're using medication or they're not. You put that here. So let's just say, for example, I'm like higher up here, and then I'm using the cholesterol. Let's say my cholesterol is like 250. Okay. So then you just click submit. And then it's going to give you the different ratings. And it should take into consideration all of those different factors that you just submitted. Every carrier is going to have different BMI indexes as well and different BMI charts. This is a great way for you to be able to find out if you have somebody that's heavier, then this is a great way to know what's going to be the best rating. I know Prudential and Banner, which Banner's not on here, but those carriers, they're a little bit more lenient on the BMI. National Life Group is a little more strict on the BMI, but if you plug it into here, it's going to be able to tell you because this is using the numbers from those carriers to determine what these ratings are. Okay, so this is a very basic overview. If you have some more complicated issues, that's when you're going to have to maybe do a little bit of homework for the client. I will typically not give a rating if they have medical issues going on that I can't account for. And I have to double check with Dina, but I know she told me that there's a quick quotes, which is what I use a lot, and I'll get into that shortly. So just to summarize, if you have somebody relatively healthy, they have some blood pressure, cholesterol issues, whatever, you can give them quotes here, and it's going to be pretty accurate of what you're looking at, right? One thing to note is tobacco use. And I want you all to remember this. Write it down if you have to. tobacco use. If you have somebody that smokes cigarettes, they're screwed. They're going to get a smoker rating. Or if they use cigars like every week. Cigars, smoke, tobacco is going to be a smoking rating. If you have somebody that uses a vape or nicotine gum or nicotine pouches or chewing tobacco or Zyn pouches, they can get a non-smoker rating with 3 carriers. And that is important. If you see what the ratings look like from tobacco versus non-tobacco, they are 3, 4, 5 times as much in premium. So if you have a client using a smokeless tobacco product, you have to use one of those 3 carriers because the prices otherwise are going to be astronomical. And it's going to set you apart from other agents too. So I guarantee you, so many other agents out there do not even know it exists that they can get a non-smoker rating because every carrier out there will consider you a smoker if you use any nicotine products other than 3 carriers, which are Prudential, Lincoln, and John Hancock. Protective, Lincoln, and John Hancock. Okay? Remember those 3. The good news is, if you don't remember it, you can still put it in here. And I told Dina to add these to the quoting system so you guys know what those ratings are going to look like. Okay? That's very important. As you can see here, Prudential, John Hancock. She doesn't have Lincoln on here, I don't think, but Prudential, John Hancock. Both would be non-smoker. Corebridge, Mutual of Omaha, Protective, every other carrier is going to be a smoker. Look at the premium difference. $40 versus 87. That's double. More than double. So if you have a nicotine user, use Prudential or John Hancock. Your clients will be very happy to know that. And it's going to get you sales. I have somebody recently that vapes and he had a policy that was a smoker policy and it was made every sense in the world to get a Prudential policy because he's going to get significant more coverage for less premium than he's paying right now. Okay. So everybody good so far with that? I'm going to assume yes. Okay. So when you're going through the process with somebody, you're going through your questionnaires and your questions, you're going to get to the medical questions. And this is how I do it every single time. You get their age, height and weight, nicotine use, and then after that, you'll go into the prescriptions. And ask, hey, are you currently using any prescriptions? Have you used anything in the last 5 to 10 years? Now, something you can also say is the reason I'm asking you these questions is if you do apply for life insurance, what's going to happen is they're going to run a prescription check and they're going to run a medical background check. So I need to know these things. I need to know what's going to show up so I can give you accurate numbers. Because otherwise, people are going to think that if they don't tell you about it, they're going to get through without anybody noticing, which is just pretty much impossible, right? So you'll deal with it. You're going to get people that tell you they're perfectly healthy, then you get a denial from the insurance carriers saying they got this, 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 and this. And it's happened. It continues to happen to me, and it happens a lot. It's going to happen to you. That's just nothing you can really do about that. But the way to prevent that is by saying, hey, again, the reason I'm asking you all these questions is I want to make sure I give you accurate ratings, and they're going to be able to see all your prescriptions and all your medical records if you apply for a policy. So I just need to know what's going to show up so I can give you accurate numbers today. Okay? So hopefully they'll be honest with you after that. Okay? So the biggest thing you're going to run into, other than the blood pressure and the cholesterol, is diabetes. And it sounds scary, but diabetes can be very insurable. There are people that could receive a standard rating. They could receive a little bit substandard rating, but there's one big question you have to remember to ask everybody that has diabetes. Well, two. One, is it type 1 or type 2? Type 1 is tough. They can still get insurance, but it's going to be very difficult to get a good rating. Type 1 is insulin dependent. They're usually born with it or they develop it very early on in their life. That means they're taking insulin daily. Type 2 diabetes is much more controllable, but you want to find out if it's type 1 or type 2. That makes a big difference. And you also need to know, and write this down. What is your A1C level? What is your A1C level? So for reference, somebody that's under 5.5 A1C is considered not diabetic. If they're within 5.5 to 6, that's generally considered pre-diabetic, which not really a big deal. Everybody is technically pre-diabetic because we don't have diabetes yet. It's not really an official diagnosis, but 5.5 to 6. Once you get from 6 to 6.5, you're still looking probably at a standard rating. When you get above 6.5 to 7, that's when you're going to be looking at substandard ratings. Okay. Typically, people can get insurance through underwriting, like a term policy up until about A1C, like 10, maybe 11, depending on the carrier. If you hear somebody that has over 10, though, it's not going to be looking good for them. It's really high. You kind of want to have people within that 5.5 to like 8 or 9 range to be able to get through a decent rating. Okay. So that's the big thing so far is height, weight, nicotine use, prescriptions. If it's anything other than high blood pressure or cholesterol and diabetes, that's when things can get a little complicated. And that's where you're going to need some experience. You're going to need to do some homework for the clients. Okay. Now, if you're not familiar, and let me just go back here, there are a couple different types of ratings that somebody can receive. There's preferred best, which is elite, preferred, standard, plus, standard. Most people fall within the standard range, but you could get people that are in the substandard rating, which it goes all the way from A to J. Right? And every rating you go down is about 20% higher. So that's typically what you'll be looking at, anywhere from elite to table J. I don't think I've ever had a table J. Maybe one time I've received an offer for that. I think 8 was one of the higher ones I've ever had. Okay. Any questions so far?
Yeah, and can you go over those ratings again on the A1C levels? You said 5.5 to 6 and before that or whatever not. I got lost a little fast.
Yeah. So if someone's under 5.5, that's typically not diabetic. 5.5 to 6 would be in the pre-diabetic stages. It's getting a little high. They don't have diabetes yet, but they're within that range. Typically, probably still looking at a standard rating. From 6 to 6.5, a standard is possible, but anything above that, I'm typically quoting at like a table B, maybe table C. Okay. Above 7 is where it can get tricky. I know around a 10 would probably be an 8, table 8. It's hard to say. Every carrier is going to be different. What I would typically do is if their A1C is over 6.5 or 7, or it's around 7 or so, I'll probably be giving them numbers around here. But anything over a 7, that's when I'm gonna send it out to the underwriters to review. And that's one big thing I'm gonna go over a second is not giving somebody quotes when you have no idea what's gonna happen. I'm just going over scenarios now that you can control and that you can get familiar with, that you say, oh, okay, I remember learning this. He has diabetes. That's okay. He doesn't have any other complications. It should be this. Or he's just got high blood pressure, cholesterol issues. I can run it through here. Right? That's the simple cases that you can do through here. Okay.
Thanks.
Does that make sense, Wes?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions so far, Ryan, Paulina, Andre?
No, I'm
No.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So again, these are just simple things that you can control, that you can give people quotes for. Whenever I get people that may have had cancer in the past, or maybe a heart attack a while ago, or they got a stent put in, Or I just spoke to somebody that had Crohn's disease. Now you're in a field where who knows what the hell it's going to be. I don't know. And I tell them that. If you run into a situation where you have somebody that has a lot of medical things going on, and you're just not quite sure how that's going to affect their rating, you simply tell them this. Hey, just so you know, I'm not going to give you any ratings today. What I would prefer to do is take as much details about what you've told me and send those directly to all the underwriters of all the carriers that I have. So that way I can know exactly what rating we're going to be looking at based on the information that you provided to me. So we're not guessing at what your rating is going to be. I would rather do my homework for you to ensure that the ratings I give you are accurate. Okay. So again, I'm not going to give you any ratings today. I would rather do my homework and take this information and send it out directly to all the underwriters of every carrier I have so I can hear directly from them what rating would you'd be looking at and which carrier is going to potentially offer you the best rating. Okay. And this is very important that you guys do this. And I have to double check with Dina who to talk to about this. If I don't have it through Dina, you can send it to me and I can send it to the quick quotes I have with my brokerage and I can tell you what it's going to look like. But this is a big thing that's gotten me a lot of sales because nobody else is doing this. If you tell your client on the phone, I'm going to do my homework for you. I'm going to go out and do this work for you to ensure you that I will find you the best rating with the best carrier, they're going to feel very good about that. They're going to feel very happy that you're going to put in the work to ensure you're going to find them the best policy. Nobody else is doing that. Why would they do that? Because they don't really, most people just want to get you in and out and sell you real quick. By doing this, you're building some trust and you're going to provide them really accurate numbers. And when you do work for somebody like that, it means a lot to them because you went out of your way and took the time to do it when no one else was going to do that. So that's what's going to win you clients if you're in a competitive situation. If they're talking to other people, why do they need to go to anybody else? You did all the work for them. You're telling them exactly what the underwriters told you. Okay. Right? Does that make sense? Makes sense. Great. So what happens when you have that? How do you know what questions to ask? Well, very easy. I'm gonna send all of you guys this, or maybe I could put it in the Discord to for you guys to download. But there is a field underwriting guide that you can use so you know exactly what information you need to get from your clients to send to underwriters. I'm gonna see if I can attach it in here. Exceeds it. All right, I can send it to you guys in your emails too. But basically, all you need to do is Control F and find. So let's say somebody, if you want to ask about diabetes, you're not quite sure. Here. So this will tell you everything you need to know to ask about diabetes. Key underwriting issues. So you're going to say, well, what type of diabetes is it? Type 1 or type 2? When was the onset? How long have you had it for? What's your A1C level? The treatments, so like medications, insulin, blood pressure, coexisting hypertension, blah, blah, blah. Here's the questions you can ask right here. So you go through it, just ask them every question. Let's say somebody had a heart attack, which is called myocardial infarction or something like that. Right here. Oh, back. Right here. It's going to tell you everything you need to know for underwriters to review for a heart attack. So you'll just go through this very easily. These are all the questions you asked prior anyway. And then you're going to say, if you have an echocardiogram recently, when was that? What were the results of that? Coronary catheterization, just go through each one. Have you had a stress test done? Yes. What happened? Was it good? Everything normal? Gives you everything you need to ask them there. Let's check out maybe cancer. No bladder. I don't know. Someone has bladder cancer. Gives you everything you need to ask here, right? So this is very powerful and very helpful for you. Or if you really want to, you just go to ChatGPT and say, I have someone looking for life insurance that has Crohn's disease. What would writers want to know? And I use this sometimes when I can't find the question in the guide. So it's going to tell you here what information you need to get. So this is what I literally just asked somebody. I'm like, when were you diagnosed? How often do you have flare-ups? When was the last flare-up? What medication are you on? Did you have any surgeries? What's your current health like? I mean, there's so many questions in here sometimes where, yeah, it's not, I don't really know if you need to ask all of them, but you can simply use this, right? And then once you get their underwriting information, you don't even need to take good notes, guys. You could take like chicken scratch notes, and I'll show you why. So here's a guy, for example. Actually, this one's terrible because he had a ton of stuff going on. But here's this guy. These are my notes that I take on my laptop when I'm doing the meeting. I talked to him. Everything seemed good. Then he told me he had a stent put in. I'm like, oh, great. Let me figure out more about the stent. When was it? Where was it? And I asked him, hey, give me as much information as you can. When was this? What happened? What were the surgeries? What was the treatment? You have any follow-ups? When was the last time you went to the doctor? How frequently you go to the doctor? So I got all that information here. Just one stent, July 2008. He believed it was left ventricle. Stent put in because of a blockage. It was one vessel. He had this done. Blah, 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 blah. Then all you do is go to ChatGPT again and just say, I have a client looking for life insurance. Please take these notes and prepare them for an underwriter to review. Put all in here, and ChatGPT is going to make it look very clean and easy for you. It's going to use all the underwriter's vocabulary too. So you can basically copy all this and then send it out to the quick quotes, which is amazing. I use this like every other day. Any questions so far about this?
You're good.
Good stuff?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay, good. So that is how I go through my process when it comes to underwriting. You're going to get better at it as you get declines and you get rated policies and people come back lower or higher than you thought it would be, and you're going to get a very good idea of it. Okay. But the main questions you always want to ask are the prescriptions, medical conditions. I always ask people because I deal with a lot of first responders that tend to have sleep apnea. That's one people forget. So I'm like, do you have any sleep apnea or asthma? A lot of times they do and they forget, so they don't tell me that. And you'll learn that when you're talking to people is what questions to ask that they may not disclose to you. Okay. Now, when it comes to certain carriers with their underwriting, let me go back here. There's that. If you're looking at living benefits policies, such as National Life Group, Corebridge, North American, you got to keep in mind one thing about National Life Group. National Life Group will not require a medical exam up to $2 million for people aged 21, 18 to 59, up to $2 million. No medical exams. 60 to 65, they could get up to, I believe, 250 with no medical exams. which is huge. No medical exams guaranteed. If you're going through National Life Group and you have somebody that's unhealthy that has more than what this is going through right here, or A1C higher than 7, they're not going to get a standard rating, and I wouldn't advise you use National Life Group. National Life Group is great for people that are standard or above. If they get a substandard rating, they're probably going to exclude the living benefits, and it's going to be a significantly higher premium. The only reason we're going to go with National Life Group is for the living benefits. So if they're going to approve somebody at a substandard rating without living benefits, their policies have that living benefits premium built into it. So it makes no sense to go to National Life Group for living benefits if they're going to be under substandard because you're not going to get it. And basically, then it's a traditional term policy that they're going to be paying a lot more money for than another traditional term policy. So if you're looking to get living benefits for a client that's a little bit more unhealthy, you're probably going to want to go with Corebridge. I believe Corebridge will continue to offer living benefits up until Table 8, which is huge. So that's your option for living benefits. If it's standard or above, I would probably recommend National Life Group. If it's below substandard, then you can go Corebridge. North American is, again, probably one of the standards or above. But it's those three when it comes to the living benefits policies, okay? So the things that will be excluded for living benefits is cancer or prior heart attack or strokes. Pretty much if somebody had one of the living benefits that are included in their medical history, they're going to exclude that from the living benefits. That rider is going to be excluded. If they have issues or a lot of surgeries in the past, physical issues, they're not going to qualify for the chronic illness. The chronic illness is like being disabled or becoming disabled in the future. So if someone already has those pre-existing conditions that would have been covered under a living benefits policy, they're probably going to be excluded. And I wouldn't recommend going the living benefits policy route because they're going to be paying a higher premium for no living benefits. You're better off going with like Protective or Prudential or another traditional carrier because their premiums are going to be lower and they're not going to get the living benefits anyway. Okay. Any questions so far?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. All right. So that is a pretty basic and brief summary of how underwriting works and how to navigate it. Again, if you have somebody healthy that doesn't have more than just the typical high blood pressure, high cholesterol issues, you can go through the quoting tool here. And it's going to be very accurate, or it should be as long as they disclose everything. If you have some people with some significant medical issues, you're going to want to get as many details as possible. Bring up this underwriting guide that I'm going to send you guys. Um, or just put it into Chat GPT if you can't find it, and just find out what questions they're going to ask and send it to Quick Quotes and tell them, I'm not going to give you ratings today. I'm going to send it out to every carrier I have so I can get a very accurate idea of what rating you're going to be looking at here. Okay. So a couple other main things that you may come across are cancer. Somebody had cancer in the past, that doesn't mean they can't get life insurance, but they're going to need to be at least 2 years out from a cancer treatment completion. 2 years from the completed date of treatment. So if they had cancer 2 years ago and were diagnosed, but they didn't complete the final treatments for a year, it needs to be 2 years from the completion of the treatment. It does depend on the severity of the cancer, but if you have somebody with like breast cancer or prostate cancer, maybe stage 1 or stage 2 after 2 years, and they show continued signs of remission and no reoccurrences, and they're going back to doctors frequently, they could potentially get a standard rating, which is great. But if you ever hear anybody say they had cancer within the last 2 years, you could tell them, hey, we're going to need to wait at least 2 years. Let me give you a call once it's been 2 years so we can review what options you have, okay? So cancer is okay, but you want to make sure it's been over 2 years. And again, that's another time I would go through the quick quotes and get the information about the cancer, the treatment, the completion date, when it was diagnosed, etc. heart attack and stroke are about the same there, 2 years. And then alcohol and substance abuse are typically going to want to see over 5 years if they were using anything other than alcohol. If they're just using alcohol, they could potentially get a substandard rating after about 2 years from the completion of their treatment. Probably won't run into that too often, but you may. Okay, let me think. That's pretty much like the basics of all the underwriting and things that you're gonna to encounter. So, what other, do you guys have any questions about specific things or things you've encountered or you're curious about that I can help out with in terms of underwriting or how the underwriting process works when you submit the application? Like, what would you guys want from me?
I've never used a National Life Group before. Is that more term that you use that for, or than permanent, or?
National Life Group's fantastic with IULs and term and whole life. They have the best living benefits. They have the most robust living benefits, and I believe they're the only one with Alzheimer's rider. National Life Group is where I will go as long as, again, they're a standard or above, because I can guarantee no medical exams. With every other carrier, there is no guarantees that there's going to be no medical exam unless you go through simplified issue or instant approvals. There may be some carriers that are a little bit better on the underwriting and the lab work, but I guarantee that they don't have to do a medical exam. And let me tell you, if you can avoid a medical exam, you're going to be so much happier because people will reschedule those or they won't schedule it or they'll cancel and not show up. The less that you can put in the hands of your clients, the better. I have gotten sales lost because they don't want to do an exam and they can't find the time and then they're like, I don't want to do it anymore. If you can avoid that, you're going to be much happier. So I will always try to get people to do the National Life Group because I guarantee that they don't have to do an exam. All they have to do with me is just complete the application. Then everything they have to do is done. Every other carrier may require an exam. There's no saying if they will or won't. Typically, what they want to see is lab work within the last 12 months, and they've gone to the doctor recently. But you could still get picked for a random medical exam. There's no guarantees. So I always tell people that when I'm also going through the process, I'm like, hey, there's a possibility you may need to do a medical exam with this. I'm not quite sure. Just want to make sure that you are okay with that. We cover the fee. I always tell them we cover it when it's the insurance carrier. I'm like, hey, we cover the fee for the exam. So if we do go that route and you have to do one, you don't have to pay anything. They'll come to your home or you go to an office. They'll do blood and urine and take measurements. And then once that's done, it should take a couple of days for the results to come back, and then the underwriters will review it. So, National Life Group is your best friend. I love them. Okay. Any other questions you guys have, or any other experience, anything else you wanted to share regarding underwriting? Was this helpful?
Yeah, very helpful. I mean, I'm really big
Yeah,
on.
well,
I'll usually call the characters the carriers direct and just lay it out so I can see exactly what they can get.
yeah, that's great that you do that. I've never called them myself. I've always just did the quick quotes, but either way is fine. But that's how you're going to learn too, is by doing this over and over again. You're going to submit things, you're going to hear back. You can then use that information and look back. Like I've had people with similar situations where I look back at the quotes from the last guy and I can pretty much get a pretty good idea of what his rates are going to look like at this for this person. But it's very helpful. It's very helpful when you do that, going that extra step for people. They appreciate that at the end of the day. And it'll get you a lot more business. Hey, hey Boomer, how you doing, buddy?
And Boomer says hello.
Great. Andre, Paulina, I'm sure you guys are all experienced enough to know about this. Is more just for like newer people to learn from and just get a little bit better of a grasp on how the ratings work and how to go through underwriting. Just to make it a little bit easier. right? I know it's very confusing underwriting. If as if it weren't for underwriting, we'd get everything approved and sold, and then they'd be out of business. But they're there for a reason. We have to understand it and know how to navigate those and be able to give people accurate ratings and numbers and you know go through all that. So like that's all I really got regarding the underwriting process for you guys.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully you guys learned something from this. If there's the biggest takeaway I could tell you is again, tobacco use, if they have nicotine products that are smokeless, go with Prudential or Lincoln or John Hancock.
I don't think I have any of those, but
You'll come across them.
I don't think I'm contracted with any of them.
Oh, get just Prudential. John Hancock and Lincoln are great too, but typically their premiums are a little bit higher. So Prudential's great because if you have somebody that's heavier, they have a better rating for people that are heavier too. So they're very, very good for people higher on the BMI, and they're also great for people that use smokeless tobacco.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So definitely, again, nicotine use, Lincoln, Prudential, John Hancock. Living benefits, National Life Group. If you think they're going to be below a standard, then go with Corbridge. But that's and yeah, yeah, that's it, guys. So, um, I'll put in the Discord if you could give me your email so I can send you that underwriting guideline to look at, so you guys have that available. I also try to see if I could. You could probably take it and throw it into ChatGPT and say, "Hey, keep these notes here, or take this document and use it for reference for future questions." You can make your own ChatGPT probably from that, so you don't have to search through it. It'll just use that to give you the questions that they ask. Use ChatGPT though; it's going to help you a lot. I use it all the time when I have questions, or I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what to ask here. It's not in the underwriting guidelines. Let me see what I need to know for underwriters," and I use ChatGPT, and it's pretty accurate. It's really good.
All right.
Right? Right, Paulina, Andre, you got anything? No? All right, guys. Well, please show up tomorrow. Dave is going to be going over annuities. And I guarantee you, you probably know people that are going to benefit from annuities. And like I said in the chat, if you did one annuity a quarter, that's $250,000 of a rollover, which sounds like a lot, but people in retirement should have more than that. It could pay you seven up to 7%. So that could be potentially ten to $14,000 from one case.
Gotcha. What time is that going to be?
That is going to be, I believe, at 4 Eastern. All right, let me just double check on. Um, oh, 2 Eastern. Sorry, I got it completely wrong. 2 Eastern tomorrow. But he's going to go over different annuities, what to look out for, how to talk to people about them, what you can use them for, why they're valuable for people close to or retired. And I'm gonna make a TikTok video about some of that soon too, so you guys can watch that. And I'll post it in the Discord.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well,
Appreciate your help, Nick.
yep, no problem. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow.
All
All right. Later,
right.
bro.
All right, bye bye.